Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Bug Snacks Forever 99. Thanks for the suggestion. Bug Snacks Forever. You asked, when did going off the grid get so glamorous? Isn't it supposed to be about survival and bugs? You're not wrong. Once upon a time, off the grid meant eating squirrels and filtering water through your sock. Now it means sipping oat milk lattes in a solar-powered cabin while journaling about your digital detox. So what happened? When did unplugging from society turn into an aesthetic choice with its own Pinterest board? Let's find out, right here on Explaining Everything. Let's rewind to the early roots of going off the grid. Before it was hip, it was kind of scary. For most of the 20th century, living off the grid was the domain of survivalists, doomsday preppers, and that one guy in every town who insisted the government was hiding something and also owned 47 buckets of freeze-dried chili. The grid itself, electricity, gas, water, phone lines, was seen as freedom. If you had a landline and a fridge, you were living the dream. Choosing to leave all that behind wasn't about finding yourself. It was about avoiding everyone else. This was not a lifestyle that involved curated linen robes and artisanal candles. This was digging a bunker and learning how to tan your own leather. It was intense. Of course, the idea of escaping the noise of society isn't new. Back in the 1800s, Henry David Thoreau went to live in a cabin near Walden Pond for 2 years and wrote a whole book about how magical it was to live simply and listen to frogs. The man was basically the first influencer to go off the grid and humble brag about it. But even Thoreau had help. He wasn't in the wilderness eating moss. His mom brought him sandwiches. He was just close enough to civilization to enjoy the vibes without having to boil rainwater. And that's the seed of the modern off-grid aesthetic. A romantic idea of escaping the chaos of modern life without any actual suffering involved. Fast forward to the 2010s. The internet is everywhere. Phones are glued to faces. Stress is a lifestyle. And suddenly, going off-grid starts to sound good again. But here's the twist. People didn't want to go off-grid and vanish. They wanted to look like they had. The cabin in the woods posts on Instagram. Those weren't survivalist hideouts. They were stylish, solar-powered Airbnbs with Wi-Fi that doesn't really work, but it's okay because you're supposed to unplug. Suddenly, off the grid wasn't about disconnecting from society. It was about curating a very particular aesthetic: earth tones, handwritten notes, cracked ceramic mugs, yoga with goats maybe. Influencers went off-grid the way people go on juice cleanses, temporarily, dramatically, and with content scheduled in advance. By the late 2010s, brands caught on. Off-grid became the new luxury. You could buy entire retreat packages promising a digital detox with organic meals, guided meditation, and eco-toilets that compost your sins. There were glamping sites charging $800 a night for the privilege of pretending to camp, just with AC and designer shampoo. Even clothing brands joined the party. Suddenly, wearing oversized sweaters and sturdy boots meant you were channeling forest core, not running late to chop firewood. And let's not forget the gear. Hand-woven hammocks, minimalist cookware, ethically sourced wool blankets, all to recreate the feeling of rustic independence, minus the raccoons and existential dread. It was the wilderness, curated for your comfort. And then came the tiny homes. What started as a minimalist movement soon became another off-grid fantasy. These weren't just little shacks in the woods. These were sleek designer cubes with mood lighting and matte black faucets. Every Instagram reel featured someone saying, "I just wanted to simplify my life," while standing in a $120,000 house on wheels built out of reclaimed yoga studios. The irony? Many of these tiny homes were parked next to regular houses, or connected to city water, or mounted with Wi-Fi routers. But the vibe was off-grid, and that's what mattered. Because in the age of aesthetics, perception often trumps reality. Today, being off the grid isn't so much a way of life as it is a flex. It says, I have the money, the time, and the emotional bandwidth to walk away from modern life for a bit, and then come back with glowing skin and a new appreciation for chamomile. It's not just about escaping, it's about signaling. A kind of soft rebellion, where the worst-case scenario is you miss a few emails and accidentally journal too hard. Of course, there are still people who genuinely live off the grid for sustainability, privacy, or philosophical reasons. But the popular version? It's a branded retreat with a wood-fired hot tub and optional drone footage. Going off the grid became glamorous when it stopped being about survival and started being about vibe. The idea of escape turned from fear-driven to aspirational. We no longer ran from civilization. We vacationed from it in linen. What used to be the life of hermits and hardcore preppers became a curated, cozy fantasy. Less no one can find me. More, please like my post about how no one can find me. So the next time you see someone sipping tea in a glass cabin overlooking a misty lake, remember, off-grid isn't what it used to be. It's not just about unplugging. It's about looking unplugged, ideally through a filter. If you enjoyed this video, maybe leave a like, subscribe, and if you really want to go off-grid, just turn off your phone and forget where you put it. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.